And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Digital Dialogue series. My name is Tawana Bain, and I'm the founder of the Derby Diversity in Business Summit. We went virtual back in late March to bring candid conversations across the digital divide. I'm excited to have part 2 of our discussion, equipping white women to stand up against racism. So we've caught up with a few of them that took a pledge to find out how things are going. So before we get started, I will have each of you introduce yourself, tell the audience a little bit about you, how you came about to take this pledge, and we'll go from there. Melissa, we'll start with you, then Christy, and then Dina.
Sure. My name is Melissa Monsky, and I am a senior project manager at GE Appliances. I am also the board president of Women Influencing Louisville, and I think it was probably more through that aspect that I got really involved in this discussion, just looking at diversity on our board and having candid conversations with friends and colleagues, recognizing that there's just so much I didn't know or understand. And so just wanted to do a better job.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christy Weichert, and I'm a senior marketing strategist at Mercer. It's a human resources and consulting company. I've been there for about 5 years. I recently became involved with Women Influencing Louisville. Melissa actually used to work at Mercer and asked me to be a part of our business resource group, which then got me hooked up with the Will Group. I think I, like a lot of people, have been really disturbed at the increasing number of Black men and women that have just been killed for no reason. I wanted to do something about it. And I realized I wasn't using my voice in the right way. And so when I heard about this forum and how it could equip me to use my voice in a better way, I was 100% in.
Hi, my name is Dina Cheney. I'm the founder of Bosisi Designs. We are a handbag company. I'm based in Vermont. However, all of our seamstresses are in South Africa. All of our bags are handmade there. I met Tawana through a colleague, and I just really believe in what she's doing. And, diversity is something that's so important. And I felt like this was the perfect opportunity to try and amplify that and to really learn more about what's going on in the world and with Black Lives Matter. So I think this is hugely important, and anything I can do to be a part of it, I'm in.
Awesome. All right, so catching up. Right? Lots have happened. You've had over a month now to take some of the suggestions from Nikki, Regina Jackson, myself, depending on which panel you participated in. And I am really interested in knowing how things transpired. So I asked you all last night not to spoil anything by giving me, a glimpse into what happened. And so, Melissa, I do want to start with you because it sounds like you had some updates. Talk to us.
Sure. Well, I did a couple things. There were a lot of great resources mentioned during that panel discussion, a lot of books that I started reading, and I actually joined a book discussion about reviewing the book, Waking Up White. And there's going to be a follow-up review and discussion of White Fragility, which I know some of our board members have been reading as well. It's hard to get your hands on any of those books these days because I think everyone who is been touched by what's going on and determining the same things we've discussed about getting to learn and understand better. So I've been part of that. We've created a subcommittee of our board to really look at diversity and how we can expand our diversity and really start to measure the impact that we're having. And then I've also just taken the courage to use my voice. I think that was one of the lessons I learned was, for a long time, I just wouldn't say anything. I didn't agree with things that people said. And I thought, gosh, that's really racist. But I never said anything. I didn't do anything. And it wasn't until the panel discussion and further conversations with friends that I realized saying nothing is just as bad. And so really just taking the opportunity and stepping through that fear to use my voice and speak up and help agree with things Yeah, so those have been the big steps I think that I've taken. Probably upset a few of my friends on Facebook. I've probably been unfriended by a few people on Facebook, but I'm okay with that. Here to use my voice and speak up. And
Christy?
Sorry, I was on mute.
It's okay.
You know, well, a lot's changed for me. I took a lot of steps to educate myself. So I took advantage of, again, like Melissa said, a lot of the resources. I listened to the 1619 podcast that's hosted by Nicole Hannah-Jones. It's amazing. People on the treadmill at Planet Fitness saw me cry while I was on the treadmill. Serial is another great podcast. I read the book, I'm Still Here, by Austin Channing Brown. A really great story, even about her learning to love her Blackness and to accept her Blackness in a world that was made for whiteness. And it was kind of eye-opening reading from another person's perspective, a Black person's perspective in a white world. Things that I never had to think about. That's part of my privilege. I just never had to think about my name being Christy. She was named Austin so that employers would be fooled into bringing her in thinking she was a white male, so she could maybe have the opportunity to get a job. Great book. Get a chance to read it. But really educating myself about systemic problems, about inequalities, about redlining, things that I had maybe heard before, but never took the steps to really educate myself about. So I'm chunking that out a little at a time. And sometimes I have to walk away because it's overwhelming. So I can't imagine how overwhelming it is for Black people in this country.
And has walk away.
Yeah, for 400 years. I'm overwhelmed. I can't imagine. So it's pretty overwhelming. I had to really self-reflect a lot and look at myself and say, when have I experienced privilege? When have I witnessed bias or racism? And what did I do about it? And I found most often I was, like Regina said, the white woman that didn't want to have an argument and wanted to be nice. And so I didn't say anything. I would separate myself from those people, or I would say, oh, that's a bias. That's not true. I'd talk to my kids about it later. I'd say, oh, that person's really racist. We're just not going to, we're done. We're not hanging out with them anymore. Defriend them on Facebook. That's awful, right? Not a great stance, but I decided I'm going to use my voice. So we were at a celebration with family members, some in-laws and some of my family members, and a conversation started happening right in front of me about monuments being taken down. And someone made the comment that they are trying to erase our history. And in the past, I might have walked out of the room, or I might have changed the subject, but I didn't. I tackled it head on, and I said, no one's trying to erase history. People are trying to correct history, tell history. And those people, while maybe they did some good things in life, did some really terrible things that hurt a lot of people. And you're not allowed to tell other people what offends them or what hurts them. And so I had this conversation, and it went a little further, and I was polite, of course. I didn't stop. I didn't stop sharing what I had learned through the resources and through listening to my friends and my colleagues. And what hit me, I was proud of myself. And then what made me realize I was doing the right thing was the next day, my next to youngest daughter, who has Asperger's, so she's sometimes she has to really care about something to talk about it. If it's not important to her, it's not important. And she came up to me and she said, Mom, that conversation that you had in the kitchen yesterday about the monuments, I said, yeah. And she said, I'm really proud of you for saying that. She was like, I'm glad that you stood up for what's right. And I might get a little emotional, but her being proud of me made me realize it's not what you say. It's sometimes what you don't say. And that my kids weren't hearing me say all of the right things that I needed to say in the right moments. So,
Christy, you're going to get me to crying because you're right. You're right. There's so much, it's a lot, right? Melissa, your comments and how you can't get your hands on certain books because everybody's immersed into it. Christy, you taking something as small as being a part of all of these different discussions and saying, I'm going to use my voice right now, and that ricocheting down to a whole nother generation. That's leadership. That's how humanity evolves. So gosh, you've got me a little teared up. I understand how those that are differently abled, and I'm certain you probably even just stood there for a moment and thought, wow, given, the situation. So Dina?
Yeah, it's been really heavy. And there's so many things that go through my mind. But the first panel that I was on really hit me hard. And I know I wanted to do some reading. And there's so many books out there. But I started reading a book called Nonviolent Communication. And it's more about how you talk to people, how you de-escalate, how you really find out what their needs are. How do you talk so that everybody is understanding what's going on? And I think that's really important because words matter, and people right now are saying things, and they might not really be articulating the way someone else is hearing it. And so as I talk to my friends and my family and my kids, really understanding how to use your voice, and how to use it in a way that's going to be constructive. And for me, using my voice is something that I've always been a little bit hesitant on. I have a lot of strong feelings, but to put yourself out there in a sense that you're vulnerable and you are standing up for something, even if you really strongly believe in it, is sometimes challenging depending on the situation you're in. And so for me, I think the most important things that I wanted to do was to take physical action, in the sense of I attended the Juneteenth event that was in my town. I went to the painting of Black Lives Matter in our city, and I painted and attended that event. And just showing up really is part of it, because we can all kind of hide behind different things. And for me, it's about like physically being there and standing for something. Another thing that I thought was really important is to use my voice through my business. So my business is about supporting underserved women in South Africa. And so for me, it's more of a global issue too. It's local, it's everywhere, but I'm also understanding that from a global perspective, it can be even worse in some other countries. And so by using my voice through my company, I've done several blog posts, I do social media posts, and I talk about the injustices in the world, as well as celebrating people that have made such an impact, like Nelson Mandela, for example. And of course, I attended 4 of the DDBS panels, so I can learn from the group and hear what they're saying and learn from that. So I'm just really trying to take it day by day, because it does get really heavy. But I think arming yourself with information, learning how to communicate it in a way that's not going to escalate a situation, and standing up for something, and taking that risk to say, hey, listen, this is what I believe in, and we can talk about it, and if you disagree, that's fine. But I want you to know who I am and what I believe in, which has been actually quite empowering. So yeah, it's been a busy month.
Well, certainly you sounds like you've had your hands in quite a bit. And I don't want to gloss over the fact prior to all of this transpiring, Dina, you've been really a godsend to the Derby Diversity Business Summit. We had a situation where we didn't know where we were going to get our bags from, which are normally donated by Churchill Downs. But because of COVID, earlier on, they were having difficulties getting the bags for our conference attendees to the States in time. And so then here comes CC Designs, and it is no small feat to donate 400 bags and get them from Africa to America in time. And so we are just very, very grateful and thankful for your partnership, and even more so the fact that you are sticking with us both through the virtual Pivot Summit, Pivot Champ Summit, and then our physical event. So I didn't want to gloss over that, and I'm glad that you mentioned your business. I do want to come back because I'm certain, Christy, the feedback I've been kind of peeking backstage at just people saying, kudos to you, Al. They're proud of you. Great job. But I do want to learn. I'm certain. I mean, you guys didn't ask, but I'm going to ask for you with addressing family. And number one, I find in my family crosses boundaries anyway that like the average person doesn't, right? Whether they come to your home and they go into a room or a closet that you're like, really? Or showing up unannounced, right? So so having conversations with family, and you think about those boundaries of people just, maybe it turning into an argument or it escalating. And I know you were very nice, but I'm curious as to, I know your daughter got the message. Did that family member get the message?
I think so. I think it is a lack of knowledge and education. I'm the first member of my family to graduate from college. I was always raised to treat everyone with respect, to love everyone. And so when we go back to saying just because people say biased or things that are racist doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't make them people that hate others. Sometimes it is just a lack of knowledge. So I told some stories about the Provost family. If you've listened to the 1619 podcast, you'll hear about it. He was a farmer that had inherited land and worked really hard and couldn't get the same sharecropping loans that white people got and ended up losing everything that he had and his family had worked for and we're so proud of. So I told those stories. I told why things are systemic. Here's, because a common theme is, everybody has the same opportunities. That's not true. Not everybody doesn't have the same opportunities. We don't all come from the same places of privilege. I had to work hard, but I didn't have to work hard because I was white. And I had to, explain that to my family members. It was a long conversation. So my kiddos got to overhear, which I didn't realize they were overhearing all of it. I'm glad that they did. They're not conversations that they've not heard us have in our own home, but they've never had me hold someone to task the way that I did and correct our family members, especially, family members that they've heard. I realized say these things before and nobody's addressed it. Mm-hmm. They were open to it because they are, they are good people. And I do think that they'll listen more and will ask me questions because they were asking about the stories that I told and where I heard this information.
Wow.
One family asked, but what do you think about reparations? I was like, you know what? I don't know enough about reparations yet to give you a whole lot of knowledge. It's on my list. I'm going to be reading.
I'll tell you.
I said, but I'll come back and give you my theory. I'm like, I know. I said that, I'll learn more and I'll give you more information. So I think they crave it too. And I think it didn't come from a place of hate or anger. It just was a lack of knowledge. We all see those failures in our education system, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't hear a lot of the stories a lot of the history that we needed to know to have the full picture of why Abraham Lincoln was, he did some great things, but he did some not so great things too. And he did the great things for not great reasons. Mm-hmm. So, just stuff that we didn't grow up learning and we have to seek it. And if somebody's not telling you and you're not seeking it out for yourself, you'll just live with that, that shadow. You just won't have that understanding.
Gosh, Christy, that is so powerful. So I'd like to piggyback on that. DDBS, right? So we've existed for 3 years, and we've been always had the intent to launch our nonprofit entity, and we've been planning this, for several years, and it just always kind of fell at the bottom of the priority scale, especially when it came down to us struggling to get the funding that we needed to get it off the ground. Well, during the pandemic, we started very early because we started the digital dialogue series, and then we said, you know what, this is a great time to get Jedi off the ground, and we invested in a membership platform, and we were well on our way, and then bam, civil unrest happened, and it accelerated. There were leaders that were pushing and saying, Tawana, you need to get this done, and you need to get it done now. Never in my wildest dreams, WHAS did a story, and when you get the time, going back to education, I have never had anything shared the number of times, one, that this article was shared. And I have never had the type of comments made or accusations made about me as a Black woman by a white person to that degree. But as I looked at the comments, I was forced to say, you know what? I can't really get angry. That's lack of education. Oh, that's wrong. And so I slowly began to comment and educate where I could. Now, it's not to say that I should have to bear the burden of teaching anybody about their history. You need to do your job. You need to seek the information out. You need to do the work. But it demonstrates the power in utilizing your voice. It demonstrates the power in having a white to white conversation where everyone's guard is down, not putting the burden on your Black friends and families or neighbors to have these conversations to begin to ignite that change. So, it's kind of funny. I told somebody, said, I'll never forget that. Why do you have so many white friends? I says, well, it certainly is coming in handy right now. So, I need my white friends to mobilize and to have conversations in spaces that I just can't have them, So, but Melissa, I want to come back on, I'm looking in the comments here backstage. So again, for those of you that are tuning in on Facebook, I'm glad to have you, but please join us backstage. It's free to register. You can make a donation, but it is free to register and join in on the dialogue. These books are definitely very difficult to come by right now. Let's talk about those that that are reading it. Now, I want to set the tone with this. Everyone that reads the book is not necessarily reading the book because they want to be part of the movement. Some just want to know what the hell we're reading because they hear about it all over the news, right? So you've got two different things going on. People want to know what are some being fed, right? And then you have others that are genuinely diving in and trying to take from what they learned and actually apply it in their everyday lives. So can you share some of the insights and just feedback with people that are tuning in, reading the content?
Yeah, so, and I think you've made some good points. And to what Christy said, when I've been having this dialogue with people, I also have to remember that not everybody is at the same point in this journey as I am. And I do see it as a journey. This is a lifelong learning opportunity. This is not something where I'm going to learn it all and then I can check the box and say, I'm done, I get it. This is never going to end. So I've committed, to living my life this way, but not everybody has, right? Not everybody is at that point to even understand or accept that there are issues. They want to fight and argue and challenge. So, reading the books has been helpful for me. What I've done, instead of asking my Black friends to educate me, I've asked them, what resources would you recommend I use? Because if you go out on the internet, right, you can find anything. And if I want to believe history in a certain way, I can find enough articles to support what I want to believe. So I want to see the other side of it, the other perspective, and be able to have those conversations. And like Christy said, when I'm talking to people and they ask me questions about stuff that I haven't read yet, or I don't know, I say, I don't know. I don't know yet. I'm still learning. And that's where I'm at the beginning of this spectrum of just recognizing I don't know and being ready and willing to learn. Our Women Influencing Louisville board, we were hoping to do a panel discussion on the book, White Fragility. We will do it, I think, at some point. We're not going to be able to do it as quickly as we had hoped because A, people aren't able to get their hands on the book. B, people who are reading the book are finding it very difficult to get through. And yes, this is a privilege that Christy and I have of being white and being able to put the book down and walk away and think about and process, but not have to live with, right? And I recognize that that's not necessarily fair. But at this point of all this information, sometimes you do have to kind of just put it down, process it, think about it. And I really find myself trying to understand from somebody else's perspective. So I see everything from a white lens and remembering that that's not everybody's lens. So recognizing that the history books were sponsored by groups who had a very clear agenda of teaching history in a very specific way. And that, you know, you always think of history as being fact. We learn the facts in school. The problem is we didn't learn all the facts. We only learned half of the facts. They're still facts, they're still truths, but they're not the whole truth. And that's the part that's missing, and getting everybody, you know, not everybody's there yet. Not everybody's ready to accept that.
Well, I'll tell you, you just gave me a total epiphany on a whole nother concept for the dialogue, because you know what? It's not in the schools. However, you know, we need teachers, right? They're the ones that are educating our children. We definitely need teachers standing up. So if you're a teacher and you're reviewing this, I need you to inbox us because I want to talk to you all, because you're right. You're right. I do want to point out,
those teachers have the challenge of dealing with the school board and the parents of the students that they're teaching, right? So there are probably a lot of good teachers out there that want to teach this material that have not been allowed to teach the material.
which is unacceptable.
Absolutely.
It's unacceptable. I do want to point out, many are sharing with us that the books are available via audio download. So for those of you that wanted to get your hands on a hard copy, you can download them through audio. I see book is on Libby, Louisville Public Library by Brenda. Kathy Riley shared that they are on Kindle. And Brenda also shared that White Fragility's author is also has a website where she's got resources that you can utilize as well. So for those of you that sold out, or family or whatever, want to start a book club, definitely can still go the audio route, because I'll tell you, with the way that COVID is spiking, it doesn't look like we'll really be getting having in-person gatherings anytime soon. So Dina, one of the things that I was really curious about, so you went out, you attended and participated in the Black Lives Matter painting. Can you share a little bit about that experience? I think the one thing that's really important to know is not like you were a white woman that went out and then you were just surrounded by other Black people that were doing this. I think the thing about this global people-led movement is that in certain protests, you have more white people showing up saying, I'm tired of this, than you do Black people. And I think the reason why is because while your point, Melissa, is, I can put the book down, we're going to end up at a point, if we don't mobilize, even white people will not be able to escape it, because every street in America will be filled and every news channel will be circulating it and every news feed on social media will have it. And so what was that like going out, and what was the experience in seeing so many different people mobilizing around this?
Yeah, it was, well, I guess I'll start out by saying I went by myself, which was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to share it with somebody. But I said, no, I'm going. Like, this is too important. So I went, and I mean, being in Vermont, it's mostly white community, and there was a good turnout. I think the people, I saw mostly white people, families. There were, some different cultures. We have a big refugee resettlement. It's a refugee resettlement city. So there was all sorts of different people there. But what I wanted to see was more interaction between the participants. So, and again, in other cities, I'm sure it's completely different, right? Mm-hmm. But I really wanted to see more conversation kind of between different groups. So the fact of going out there and painting was one aspect, right? You're showing support, you're coming out there, you believe in the movement. The other piece of it is, what's the next step? Like, I can sit in my house and believe in the movement, but is that going to make me search out, other people of color to be like, hey, what are you doing? Let's go out for a drink. Let's do something, not necessarily to talk about race, but like to really connect with people. So I was really happy to go, and I was happy to see, groups out there and families and kids and, everyone kind of wearing, clothes that support. But I really hoped that maybe there was someone to talk, like, during the event with a megaphone or something, just to like spark conversation or to gather the group together. And, that was just the experience here. But I can't wait till we can just say like, hey, we're going out with a group of friends, and not have to say like, my white friends, my black friends, my people of color, and have to label every group and just be like, I got a bunch of friends and we're going out. I got a bunch of friends and we're going to paint Black Lives Matter. I got a bunch of friends and we're going on a trip together. So, I mean, obviously it starts with education. It starts with a general understanding, but the deep down thing is, if I meet someone at an event or whatever, and I really connect with that person and they become part of my circle of friends, that to me will move us ahead exponentially than, kind of the slower pace. And I think things are going quickly now for sure, but we just need more interaction in where we all lock arms, where we all, can just be a person. And, but that won't happen until people really understand where you're coming from. And so, I think we're making huge strides right now. And, just on a human level, I'm really looking forward to, not having to identify who my friends are based on like what their background is or whatever.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I remember when I was first kind of rallying the troops and raising money and getting people to buy into the whole DDBS model, and I had to share with them, I said, at least in Kentucky, and I've lived in New York, Miami, France, and normally a lot of my nightlife was not segregated. My networking experiences were not segregated. And so when I came here, and I'm like, why is it that when I'm with my white friends, I'm with my white friends, when I'm with my black friends, I'm with my black friends, when I'm with my LGBT friends, I'm with, and I'm like, why are we siloing ourselves this way? And I think that people don't even, it's not even an intention thing. They don't take the time to say, how can I make this a little more innovative or creative or just diverse, more inclusive? How can I do that? And how can I be intentional about it? And I do. I have a model that I like to live by. Every space where you have a table that you occupy in your life, from your dinner table to your work table to your social life table, if you have no diversity across any of those tables, you are definitely living with tunnel vision, period, point blank. No, but I think that that's very interesting. And when I look at just the number and the difference of race and gender and age and just everything that is getting involved in this, we are done transformation has just really, truly been inspiring. And then also the different ways in which people protest. Everyone's protest is not the same. Everyone's protest is not out in the streets marching. We've had several committee members that have come on board and said, you know what, I'm not able to do that. However, I want to do something. How do I get involved? So I think you make a very, very good point. And another item that I've just found to be really interesting, which is actually a project that we're working on through JEDI, as I said, if one more of my white allies, associates say, Tawana, how do I get more Black friends? I thought to myself, wow, this is 2020, but they're serious. How do I do that? And I'm at a point in my life where I'm not interested in making fun of or arguing with or condemning someone that is in 2021 and only has 2 Black friends. I'm more interested, how do I solve that? How do I solve the problem, right? So maybe you were sleeping under a rock for the last we're not going to have that conversation. It is, what can we do to change it? Because the change is essentially what's going to help us move the needle forward. So I do want to come back. Chrissy, your daughter, how old is she again?
She's 15.
Interesting. And so is she, with what's going on at home right now, is she tuning into the news? Was that hearing you kind of stand up for what you were hearing, was that coming off the hinge of her being exposed already to what's going on?
Yes, she's brilliant. She soaks up information like a sponge. If you were to meet her, you would just think she's very shy. And unless you spoke about something that was interesting to her, she's not really going to make eye contact with you. But she goes to school downtown, very diverse school. She reads everything voraciously. She comes in now. I think she would talk to me about it before, and now she's even more so open about sharing stuff with me, or even calling me to task. I used to tell, we have 5 kids. Now we have 7 with 2 in-laws. But I would, they were running around being crazy. I would tell them I was going to sell them to the gypsies. And she said, Mom, that's offensive. You shouldn't ever say that again. I'm like, you know what, Livy, you are right. I should never have said that. And I will never say it again. And so she feels more comfortable being able to share with us all of the things that she's learned and the ideas that she has, and what she feels about is going on. She wants to be a part of things. And I think all of us do, everyone that can see the humanity in another person, regardless of their skin color, wants to be a part of making this right for the world, right? We want to be a part of it. We sometimes just don't know how. Is it reading and educating yourself more so that you can share that with your circle? Is it using your social media platform to share information out there and to share posts? Is it marching in the streets? Is it painting murals? Is it making sure that you're looking at who you're doing business with? Are you doing business with people that are supporting this movement? Are you supporting Black-owned businesses? There's different things that you can take. You don't have to take it all on. You can take something on that you can be successful with, and then you can grow from there. And I think I've learned that with her, as much as she was reading, and I would tell her about the books. I'm proud of the teachers. I will tell you, all of my kids that are still in school, their summer reading is all very diverse. Beloved is one of the books. There's one called Summer of Kings, which is one of the books. I'm very, very proud of the teachers for saying, hey, let's stay on this. Let's get these books in our kids' hands. Let's make sure they understand what's going on, and that's carrying through summertime and then into the classroom. I'm very hopeful about that. So teachers out there, God bless your hearts.
God bless them. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, Melissa, I'm sorry, Christy, did you have another?
No, just that I think, she's a pro. Liv's a pro, and I'm in awe of her.
I love that. And I don't know, Linda Queso, please make sure that you connect with me. She mentioned that she has a teacher and principal that's part of a group. I'd really like to learn more about what she's doing. But Melissa, I want to also give kudos to you and to your organization, right? Because Will is its own entity with its own members. And for you all to take the liberty just to reach out, and not only reach out, but also sponsor networking amongst your members' associates to allow interaction and to meet people that are interested in this work. Share with me just kind of a little bit about what that was like. This is you guys have now created a committee, so you didn't just start with the conversation, but you all actually took action. So for those organizations, and since then we have had several organizations that have reached out, and we've been able to help facilitate various conversations or just convene. Share with us what that process looked like for your organization and how it went from concept to the action that you're taking today.
Sure. Well, Women Influencing Louisville is a closed organization made up of 15 companies around Louisville and Southern Indiana. And, the good thing is we've been talking about diversity for a while now, long before all the social unrest. The bad news is we've been talking about diversity for a long time, since before the social unrest. And so I think, everything that was happening in society really gave me the kick in the pants to say, okay, we've got to stop talking and we need to do something differently. So that's why we created a subcommittee to specifically look at diversity. So we started with, what does diversity mean? Obviously, race is the big discussion topic right now, but we don't want to lose sight of all the other factors of religion, age. Women Influencing Louisville obviously is focused on gender differences, so that has always been top of mind. But sexual orientation as well. So really thinking about every lens, and then starting with our board and who our board members are. Do we have diverse representation in all of those groups? We don't know, so we're going to do a survey to self-identify and really measure where we are today. And then we're looking at what we can do differently going forward to increase the diversity on the board. And I think all of that is going to have a domino effect with increasing diversity in our events and diversity in the attendance of people at our events.
Good for you all.
Yeah, the panel discussion we had with you happened very, very quickly. And I'm so grateful. This is what's wonderful about having such an engaged board. Kelly Bright, you and Kelly have known each other for a while. And so when everything was happening and we saw your first panel discussion, Kelly, was immediately reaching out to you to say, hey, how can we partner together to bring this to our board? And what's interesting, the pandemic has turned everything virtual. Our events, we were usually really limited based on budget because we're, a small organization, self-funded. We don't charge the employees of the company to attend our events. So we're usually limited by space because of the cost. But being virtual allows us to open up our events and hit a much wider audience. So I was really, really proud that we had more than 500 people register for that event. And it all came together within about a week. And we had more than 470 people.
Well, you guys ended up with almost 600.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's wonderful. And those are all people from those 15 companies. It was not open, to everyone in the public. Those are just employees of those 15 companies. So it clearly, it's clearly resonating with the member companies, with employees at those companies. There are a lot of people out there that want to hear more, learn more, do more. And I was happy to hear you say you're going to connect with Linda, because I was going to connect you to the same person who's part of that group as well. So yeah, and Louisville is such a small, big city, right? A big, small city. Everybody knows everybody. And it's just interesting to see how a little can go such a long way.
Everyone else has, made the comments that they have, but I want, not that my opinion matters any more than theirs, but how absolutely proud I am of you three. Number one, not just proud for the work that you put in, the fact, one, reaching out, taking initiative, and not just talking about it, but actually acting on it. Second, accepting the invitation at all. Okay, because when this conversation first started, things were still very raw and it was still very early, and no one really knew what side, to be on. No one knew how this was all going to play out. And so, talk about leadership and courage to say, what, I don't care anymore. I don't care about what people think. I don't care about talking about it. How do we actually do something about it? And then still really digging in. And there have been a number of women, I'm telling you, that have come from that discussion that have said, how do I dig in? Right? Because we're at a time in our lives where we have to look within ourselves to find our leadership. We cannot delegate this to anyone else. It's too important. It is way too important. It is too mission critical. And as Christy mentioned just a moment ago, it's not just adults that are watching, but you have young people that are watching. And in some instances, you have young people that are the ones that are inspiring this change and that are making us mobilize and just with the wow, and how impressed we are. I was doing a podcast for one of our members, and she asked me, she said, Twana, do you think that, once things, if things get back to whatever form of new normal that is, that we will remember this? And I said, I look at what we're going through right now with COVID and civil unrest as when you have a major setback in life, like a heart attack or a stroke or a major surgery, you never forget those things, right? You never forget them. I really do feel as though we as a nation had a heart attack, a stroke, and really fell on our face all at the same time. In order to forget that, you have to force yourself, right? You have to not want to remember at all whatsoever. So I do want to talk about something else. Gosh, it's 2:46. I want to make sure that I get everything in and some of the additional questions that I have. But for those of you that are looking for ways that you can get involved, the DDBS Summit that has been putting on this digital dialogue series for the last, I don't know, since early March, we've had to pivot this year. And so we pivoted with a virtual event called DDBS Virtual Pivot Champs. You can find more about it at pivotchamps.com. It is a 3-day virtual summit, highly engaging, but it is 20 cities around the country. And what I'm loving about it is we have our way of protesting. And so not only are we really generating economic impact with all those that are involved, we are also creating unity across the country. And so all of the different host cities have committees. I want to thank Mercer. Kelly Bright's been instrumental, as well as Pepsi, that have been helping fill these committees with seats of people that model after the DDBS structure. So we intentionally created our organization to have representation from every diverse group so that we can make sure that everything that we plan and that we touch and all of the thought-provoking and provocative conversations that we have, because they are provocative. If you know me, I like to go there. But so we wanted to make sure that those perceptions and those views were brought from a very, very diverse group of people. So I want to make sure that I share that with you all. Why this is so important for me this year during this time is a lot of the funding and the work that we are doing are now rolling up directly to JEDI. And JEDI is a Black foundation intended to establish a corpus that lives on through perpetuity because we don't have one. Right. And so if we're really going to come out of this with truly groundbreaking, sustainable, game-changing ways in which we have really righted our wrongs for the past, we're going to get this thing stood up. And all of those that contributed and were a part of it can be extremely proud about what we've accomplished. So I want to make sure I get that out. Now, because if I don't, I know we'll run over because we only have 11 minutes left. Let's get back to just a couple things. For those of you that may have tuned in late, Christy shared about an opportunity that she took to talk with a family members as she heard some dialogue spark while they were together and began to educate her family members on where their misinformation was. And through that conversation, not only was she able to, her younger daughter was tuning in and then later reached out to tell her mother how proud she was about standing up, but she also now has family members that look at her as a leader, someone that they can come to and ask questions about. So Christy, we talked about it really from your daughter's perspective, and we talked about it, what did that family member think? But as you truly reflected as an individual, right, as you go about everyday life after that moment, how has that changed you?
So I think I'm a lot more intentional about speaking up. I tell people often, Am I a good friend? Yes, I am a good friend. Am I a good colleague? Absolutely, I'm a good colleague. Am I a safe space for all of my friends, black or white, to come and talk to me about their challenges, their problems, whatever? 100%. Was I a great ally? No. And so that was hard for me to recognize. I'm like, to accept that as loving as I am, as accepting as I am not educated enough. And I didn't do enough with my own voice. I didn't call people to task. I didn't do those things. So I was proud of myself for doing it. But it was it's like too little. Is it too little, too late? Absolutely not. It's too little. I need to do more, but it's never too late. So I think that's important for people to realize. And that if people are going to distance themselves from you because you're speaking a truth and you're bringing light to things that have been shoved in the darkness for too long and have been ignored for too long, do you really need them as a part of your life? Probably not. And so I'm grateful that I've had all of these opportunities. My fear sometimes still is bigger than my heart. I'd love to be part of the protests. I'd love to be downtown walking. My fear there is just still bigger than my heart. So I try to go where my fear isn't that big. And one day I'll conquer that fear and I'll be able to be out there walking. I want my kids to see that. I want them to see that part of me, and I want them to be brave and never let their fear be bigger than their heart. So still challenges, and recognizing I have a lot of work to do. I think we all do. And I don't want everybody I don't want all of my Black friends, I don't want Black people carrying that burden by themselves any longer. So I'm going to take what I can.
Powerful, 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 powerful. Dina and Melissa, can you also give us some final words?
I mean, yeah, I think I just had an epiphany when Christy was talking, being part of Will. We talk about male allies all the time and all the things we wish men would do to support women in corporate America, speak up and help them rise up. Well, that's what I need to do for my Black friends, my Black colleagues, and really making that connection. I've done it for the LGBTQ. I don't know why there's always been this fear, as Christy said, to speak up on behalf of Black people. I haven't had that fear in other areas of my life. It's really overcoming that of what am I afraid of? I need to be a better ally. And that's part of being an ally, is not just acknowledging that things are wrong, but doing something about it.
So I do want to share something to that, Melissa. And I think the fear, it's not a thing, I really believe the fear is this. In those other spaces, you have white people, right? When you know that there has been this evil stronghold and some people can literally lose their absolute mind when you use the word Black versus white, it is a little safer when you can be an ally for other white people that may just fit in a different category. But when you leave the white out and you specifically say Black, I have noticed something that I've just never noticed or seen with other diverse groups. And if you've tuned into the other dialogue series, I've used this example before. I own a restaurant downtown Louisville. And when the pandemic happened, Encore on 4th, when the pandemic hit, we immediately had to go to curbside takeout. And for those of you that are familiar with the Louisville Takeout Group that launched so that the restaurants who did offer delivery services, people could connect with them, you could go in and you could ask for Greek food, Italian food, Polish food, Chinese food, Japanese food. And when you would ask the question, people would respond. For whatever reason, if you ask the question, do you know of any Black restaurants, the moderators of that group would have to turn off the comments. There is an underlying what I like to call disease of an issue between white and Black America that really stems back to times of slavery. It is so ugly. It is so ugly that is a lot of where that fear is coming from, because we have been taught, and for those of us that have children, it has been scientifically proven that trauma is passed on, right? It is passed on. And so for us to be in an age where people are saying, I am going to break this stronghold, it is a phenomenon. And a lot of people are dealing with a lot of different emotions and feelings that they've never had to confront before. So thank you for sharing that, because that is very powerful. And I am certain, because we have so many different types of viewers, that you were not the only one thinking it. So I really appreciate you for speaking up about it. Dina?
Yeah, I think talking with, even family members who have a different viewpoint and are coming from a good place, but skew their response based on maybe something they heard that I don't agree with. I'm speaking up more about it. And like I said, in a nonviolent like escalation, it's like, well, okay, but let's break that up a little bit and talk about it, because I think maybe you have some misinformation. And again, I mean, I'm learning, reading and all that kind of stuff, but I think for me, as soon as you do something that is uncomfortable and you get through it and you succeed or you accomplished whatever it was, it's so empowering that you will do it again. So I would say to people, just do something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone, but you believe in, and see what happens. And it will encourage, it will give yourself encouragement the next time and the next time and the next time. So I think just keep talking and reading and reaching out, even just to say hello. You're in a room, you pass by someone, you say hello, well, with the mask on. But I think just having a smile and interaction, things that you thought might be scary, they're really not scary. And just like if you are afraid of public speaking, and then you do it and you're like, oh, okay, I can do this. The next time is easier. The next time is easier. So, just continue to improve. And like I tell my boys, nobody's perfect, but you can improve and you should improve. So take that, and, you don't need to check in with anybody and say, look what I did, look what I did. But just know in yourself that you did something, and give yourself a pat on the back and be like, okay, I'm in, I can do this. And if we all could do that, I think it would be like a huge powerful thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we've got 2 minutes left. So I would like to give some final thoughts and also go over networking for all of you all. I do have some great news. The organization Think Tank Lou has sponsored Digital Dialogue Series. And so networking today is open for everybody. So thank you, Mr. Randy Blevins, for that. Every bit of financial support helps the work that we do, and it goes a very long way. So make sure you hang on from 3 to 3:30, meet someone new that have some similar views or interests in you. At 3 o'clock on the left side of your screen, you will hit the button live. And when you hit live, it will take you to a screen where you can have one-on-one interactions with other attendees. When you're ready, hit the ready button. And if you'd like to stay in contact with that person after your time expires, which I believe you all get about 180 seconds, if I'm correct. Once your time has expired, if you both hit connect, that person's contact information will show up in your dashboard. So think of it as like collecting business cards when you're at a conference. Those of you that are on Facebook, because it has been sponsored, if you want to meet some people, learn how networking works, go ahead and register, and networking will be open for you as well. And then I want to make sure that all of you tune in with us next week. Next week's topic is going to be addressing the elephant in the room. addressing today's social and political climate as America returns to work. We all understand not everybody has the same political views, and it's been a little easy to deal with all of this civil unrest from home behind your computer screen. But the reality is, everybody has to eventually go back to work. What does that look like when you have some that are for Trump and some that are not? We are bringing those on both sides of the fence to have a business conversation, because what they have said is we have to figure out how to find our common ground, and that is the bottom line. Thank you all so much for participating today with part 2 of White Women Speaking Up Against Racism. Hopefully you learned a lot of gems. You've heard those that are using their voice, you've heard those that are using their abilities, and then you've heard those that are speaking out with family into spaces that might not be as comfortable, but actually taking action. Wherever you are on your spectrum in this journey, we invite you to join us, find a way that you can plug in and get involved. Whatever your way of protesting is for change, we'd love for you to join us in this fight. If you are interested in learning more about Pivot Champ Summit, where we are creating unity around the country in 20 cities, as well as generating economic opportunity, visit us at pivotchamps.com. It is a 3-day summit, provocative conversations, amazing people, and lots of fun Labor Day week here in Louisville, Kentucky. I will see you all here, same place, same time next week. Thank you so much for tuning in with DDBS Digital Dialogue.
Thanks,
Thank
Tawana.
you.